Michelle, she, her from California. It sounds like you want to talk about near-death experiences. Tell us your story.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what's your experience? I'm excited to hear about it.
So this was in the late 1970s when I was a teenager. I had a pretty serious event and had a couple of surgeries. And during one of the surgeries, had an adverse outcome. Had a near-death experience, which I didn't know about at the time, of course, but I did have kind of a weird experience while I was in surgery, and had this weird kind of dreamlike state while I was under anesthesia. And later on found out that I had a near-death experience, and I thought, oh, okay, that's what that was. Now, I was raised secular, which was unusual in the 70s, but the experience was not religious at all. It was black and white, kind of like Keystone Cops, like, you know, a train was coming on the tracks and I was trying to get a car off the tracks, and then I woke up in the recovery room. I didn't know about NDEs back then. Wasn't until I was, went through medical school, went through residency and all of that. And then I learned, oh, okay, these are a thing. And your brain probably makes these up later. And then religious started saying, all this kind of so I just wanted to let people know that not all of these are religious. Not all of these are people that, drop to their knees and, accept Allah or Jesus or whoever, Vishnu. Some of us have them and, go on about our lives. And honestly, I rarely ever thought about it. Really until I started watching a lot of atheist content on YouTube, to be honest. So I just kind of wanted to push back on some of the religious people saying that, near-death experiences prove God.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you say you're in residency? What specialty?
I started off in family medicine, and then I switched to psychiatry.
Oh, amazing. I'm actually working on switching from family medicine to internal medicine. So I'll be joining the switcheroo club.
Yeah, I'm actually probably going to retire in maybe another 5-6 years. I'm at the end of my career. You're at the beginning. So.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing, though, that we have some secular psychiatrists out there that are doing some amazing work. And of course, I don't know you personally, but I know in a field that can be very heavily influenced by religion. Happy to hear that there's some secular folk doing some good work.
We're actually pretty secular as a whole. Psychiatrists and neurologists tend to be pretty secular. But yeah, this was my near-death experience. I was a teenager. This was back in the 70s. And NDEs, people have been experiencing these for a long time. People didn't, tend to popularize this quite a lot back then. Nobody made a big deal out of it or a big fuss. And it wasn't really until maybe the 80s or 90s that I started hearing about it. And that's when I started thinking about it. I thought, oh yeah, I had that experience. Mine was not religious. It was, like I said, it was like an old black and white movie. And honestly, I never really thought about it until religious people kind of co-opted it. And then I started thinking about it a little bit more. And I thought, you know what, I'll call and tell you about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any tips, I guess, for people engaging with these kinds of arguments? Any particular things that you've said to people that have maybe brought this up to you?
About NDEs specifically?
Yeah, have you had any discussions with people who believe that they are supernatural experiences? And if so, are there any discussion, like any kind of methods of discussion that you've used in talking with them?
So if it's a patient, I don't ever push back on patients and what they believe. Mm-hmm. If it's like in a school setting or, family or friends, it depends. And if I am going to push back on a family member or a friend, I tend to use Socratic approaches with folks. Well, why do you believe that? And what methods do you use to determine what the truth claim, how do you know that that's true? How would you test that? Things like that. And if they, get kind of squirrely about it, then I drop it. I don't tend to push it too much. I don't know of anyone else that's had an actual NDE. So I haven't really had a lot of experience with that. As far as I know, I'm the only person in my little circle that has had an actual NDE. They're not really all that common. People would have you believe that like half the population has had these, and it's really not. But people have all kinds of other, supposed supernatural experiences. So these are just feelings. We all get feelings. And I just tend to ask people, well, how do you know that's God? I mean, how would you, why do you believe that?
It's a really great question. I think that's the key one to ask. Yeah, I always wonder how much stock theists have in those kinds of near-death experiences. I know in the US, there was that really massively popular book, I think it was called Heaven is for Real, where it was just sharing the story of like a child who had gone through a near-death experience. And I hear it get mentioned quite often. So I do wonder, how much do people, when they're thinking about their own faith, do they feel like, well, there's all these near-death experiences, people seeing the white light and all that. And how much of it is it just like a secondary thing where they just believe anyway, and then this is just something that comforts them that they're already right?
Right. Confirmation bias. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly, yeah.
For sure. I mean...
All right. Yeah, with that, I think we're going to move on to some other calls. I appreciate you bringing your story, and really amazing that you're able to have some of these discussions with people.